Monday, the 23rd day of Tevet, corresponding to the 27th day of December. Please bear with me for the first minute of today's class. We have Rabbi Yosef, a lot of dedication, a lot of people to remember today. First of all, special breakfast and class graciously sponsored by Mr. Lou Masri and family, Le'ilui Nishmat, his beloved wife, Mrs. Dayan Masri, Dina, Bat Sara, Aliyah Shalom, that today is the Ereyat. I knew her for many years, and in her memory, the family sponsored and dedicated our dish mikveh. Behind the ladies' mikveh, there is a dish mikveh. And this dish mikveh has been graciously sponsored by her family in her loving memory. So every time you dip a dish in the mikveh, is a zechut for her neshama. Additionally, today's class dedicated Le'ilui Nishmat, Mr. Morris Antar. Many of you may remember him, but if you don't remember him, I tell you three things about him. Number one, this room that we are sitting was dedicated by him. That's why you see the sign right there. That mega size sign that says Morris Antar, that's him. Today the family is finishing the Shiva, so therefore we dedicate the class today also Le'ilui Nishmat Moshe ben Adel alav shalom. Additionally, today's class dedicated in loving memory of Abraham Alberto ben Sara, Alberto Faschatawil from Mexico City, and dedicated by his dear son here present, as well as the remaining brothers. So Baruch Hashem, I believe that we cover, the sponsorships of today. I do have more, but I have the liberty and permission to spread it in the next days or so. So before we go to part of the class that we discussed earlier today we are going to talk about food. You like that topic? Beautiful. Let's see what food for me. Nice. I don't see the sambusak, but that's a whole different shiur. Okay. Anyways, maybe my wife called him. Maybe my wife told him and said, don't give sambusak to the rabbi. Okay, don't tell her anything, please. Anyways, so the Gemara discusses se'udot of Shabbat. Shabbat, we all know that we eat more organized than the rest of the weekday. The rest of the weekdays, we don't have an exact timing. Thank you so much. You took it serious. Thank you. Okay. We don't have an exact timing of when we eat. Sometimes we eat earlier, sometimes we eat later. Sometimes due to traveling and being busy, we skip a meal. But when it comes to Shabbat Kodesh, we have a certain schedule. We have Shabbat dinner, Shabbat lunch, Seudah Shelishit, and Melave Malka. This is what we do in reality. Melave Malka is the name for the fourth Seudah that we do on Mosa'eh Shabbat. Comes the Gemara and asks in Masechet Shabbat, how many meals does the person needs to have on Shabbat proper? You'll be surprised at the answer that the Talmud gives us. Rab Hitka says, 4 se'udot. 4 on Shabbat day. Other opinion says 3 se'udot. The 3 se'udot we understand. Friday night, Shabbat lunch, Seudah Shelishit. Now the 4th Seudah, according to Rav Hitka, is not Melave Malka. It's not the Mosa'eh Shabbat meal. It's actually Shabbat daytime. We don't follow that opinion. We follow the original opinion of the Gemara. Now, the Gemara says, where do you learn such a thing that on Shabbat you need to have 4 se'udot? Forget about Mosa'eh Shabbat. On Shabbat proper, we know Abraham, Ishaq, and Yaakov, right? 3 forefathers, 3 se'udot. So answers the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Shenehem ben Hachamim al both of them learn from the same pasuk. I want you to listen to this pasuk, and we're going to discover a keyword that makes the difference in the ruling. We know that we had, during 40 years in the desert, we ate the man. Every day the man will be delivered, with the exception of Shabbat. On Friday, we'll have double portion. Listen to the pasuk. Bayomer Moshe. Moshe said, Ichluhu hayom. Eat today. Ki Shabbat hayom laHashem. Because today is the day of the Shabbat. Hayom, today, lo timtza'uhu basadeh. You will not find the man on the field. So, interesting enough, in this pasuk, how many times the word hayom was said? 3 times. I repeat, Ichluhu hayom, ki Shabbat hayom, hayom lo timtza'uhu. 3 times. So from here, Hachamim learn, the word says 3 times hayom, connected to food. That means that on Shabbat, you need to have altogether 3 meals. Rav Hitka says, no. The word hayom in English, what does it mean? Today. Hayom means today. But what else the word hayom means? The daytime. Yom Rishon. Okay? Yom. Eze sha'a hayom? Hayom means today, but also Yom means daytime. So Rav Hitka says, since the Torah said, Ichlu hayom, Shabbat hayom, hayom lo, from here Rav Hitka says, you must have 3 meals during the daytime, besides the night time. Okay? Hachamim disagree. And they say no. That we eat 3 sa'udot only. Shabbat dinner, Shabbat lunch, sa'udah shelishi. That is halakha lema'aseh. For practical halachic purposes, that's how we eat. Obviously, this doesn't include the maza, kiddush, Shabbat morning, right? Or after the next minyan, you have a nice breakfast. That's called bonus round. That's called a bonus to increase, to say berachot. Yes, because you have to remember, like every weekday, we say 100 berachot a day. On Shabbat, we also need to recite 100 berachot a day. And we begin with a challenge, because the Amidah of the Shabbat is only 7 berachot. The Amidah of the weekday is 19. 19 times 3, we learned yesterday, 57. On Shabbat we do Shabbat night, Shabbat shaharit, Musaf, Mincha. 4 times 7, how much is it?
28.
28. So I have a discrepancy between 57 and 28 berachot just in the prayers. I need to make up 28 additional berachot. It's not complicated. But the formula to achieve that is by eating bread every Sa'udah of Shabbat, including Sa'udah Shelishit. Be honest with yourself. Sa'udah Shelishit, also according to the halakha, requires bread. That people do mezonot or a fruit, okay, maybe there's some opinions to rely upon. But practical matters, think for a moment. If I eat bread, right? How many berachot do I do? Help me. Netilat yadayim, 1. Hamosi, 2. 4 berachot of Birkat Hamazon. I'm already 6. 6 times 3 sa'udot, 18. So from 29, I'm already giving you 18. I only need to make up 11 blessings. You are human, or you're a malach, maybe. But most of us are humans. So you go to the bathroom a few times a day, you have a coffee, you have a tea, you take a kibbeh after tefillah, you take a kamak for breakfast after the nets. So it's very easy to make up the berachot. But if a person doesn't eat bread on Shabbat, and let's clarify, we're not talking about health reasons. There are some people, has v'shalom, that cannot drink wine or cannot drink grape juice. That's a whole different story. But a person that Baruch Hashem is healthy to do so, take advantage of this particular mitzvot, that they actually eating on Shabbat, it's also part of celebrating and honoring the Shabbat. The Pasuk says, Zachor et Yom HaShabbat lekadesho. Remember the day of Shabbat to sanctify it. From here, what do we learn? The concept of Kiddush. Kiddush is a biblical commandment. Saying Kiddush on Shabbat is a mitzvah from the Torah. The wine or grape juice is a rabbinical commandment. Meaning to say, if I don't have wine for Shabbat, not a problem. I make Kiddush on bread. What if I don't have bread? You have no wine, you have no bread. What do? And you have no grape juice, don't be hacham. No grape juice, no wine, no arak, no beer, no whiskey, no vodka. You have no alcoholic beverage whatsoever. You have no bread. You have no ka'ak. You can make Kiddush on water. But guess what? Good point though. Guess what? You make Kiddush without any liquid. That's it. Nothing. And actually, you already made Kiddush in the Amidah. You already made the Kiddush in the Amidah. But obviously, this is an extreme case that a person has nothing to make Kiddush upon. And that's why the halakha discusses if a person only has, let's say, $2. $1 I don't think gets you anywhere. 2. You have an option to buy a bottle of grape juice to make Kiddush or candles for Shabbat. You know what the halakha is? Candles priority. If you have no wine for Kiddush, nish geferlach, as they say, matchaf. It's not the end of the world. You can do backup plan. But the candles are not negotiable. Let's move, Rabotai, to additional benefits of Se'udot on Shabbat. Okay? Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi Mishum Bar Kapara Kol HaMekayem Shalosh Se'udot b'Shabbat. A person that eats the 3 meals on Shabbat, Nisol Mishalosh Pur'aniyot, will be protected from 3 challenging moments in life. Number 1, Heblo Shel Mashiach, the birth pains of Mashiach's survival, guaranteed that at this moment we are experiencing the birth pains of Mashiach's survival. Never in our history will live in such a challenging moments that we are living today. If it's between the vaccines, if it's the COVID or the new child, the new kid on the block, Omicron they call them, right? And inflation and the cost of living and the housing explosion that I think that we experience, I like to say, in the state of Florida, perhaps more than many other places in America. But overall, we know that life is becoming more challenging. Who would have thought of this 5 years ago? You know, when 9/11 came, that unfortunate tragedy for the United States and for humanity, the world changed in many different aspects. And God forbid, we're not minimizing what the tragedy of 9/11 represents. But bottom line, at least that we know the source and the target. Here, we know nothing. You follow the numbers, very scary. You follow the numbers of positive cases, etc. I don't know the hospital's admissions, and I hope that there are no casualties.
They are very big.
But the numbers of people affected is incrementing by the hour. Very, very scary.
Very scary.
So this is part of Heble Mashiach. This is part, and Israel is not spared from this situation. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol nihya v'baruch.
Amen.
Let's go. ומדינה של גיהינם. מדינה של גיהינם, חס ושלום, represents Judgment Day. The day that a person meets the Creator, and then the person needs to give a report of their actions. Deep topic. I don't know much about it because I'm human, but that by itself sounds a bit scary. וממלחמת Gog umagog, and the war that will affect mankind prior to Mashiach's arrival. Gog umagog. There are different ways of understanding this war. One aspect of this war, people translated a physical confrontation between nations. Now, if you ask me how Gog umagog is, I don't know. And I don't think that anyone knows. I don't think that no one knows who Gog umagog is. Many years back, we used to say America and Russia. Then you say India and Pakistan. Then you say China and Syria. Who knows? But according to the holy books, you know what the word Gog umagog will be? A war of the spirit and the mind of the person. Ideals in life. Today, the world is guided by many things. Number one, politics. But number two, also by a personal interest or finances or influencers. That's the way world today, the world today. Today there are people who don't have employees, but they have one employee that deals with social media. That's all the marketing, right, that they do. No magazines, no newspapers, no TV ads, no radio station commercials, all social media. Whatever platform they use. It's a new world order. When we say the new world order, it's not a joke. We live in a new world order, completely different. You know, I was thinking of the future generations the other day. If these are the challenges that we, people who saw the earlier years that were more peaceful, happy, healthy, harmonious, less worried, less concerned, today to be a human is a challenge. Because you don't know who to believe. Do you believe the guy who speaks in the TV, the newscaster, or do you believe a doctor that they put up, or you believe a rabbi, or you believe that rabbi? What rabbi says do it, other rabbi says don't do it. Who you follow? You don't know who to follow. I know, it's not simple to follow yourself. Because what? A person can rest assured. Is the person sure that they are perfect in their mindset? I guarantee you that we are far away from being perfect. And that's why this war is called Gog. Gog, although Gog is a name, Gog is found in the Perashah, I think Perashat Noah. Okay, I believe after the Mabul, when the Torah gives us the lineage of the descendants of Noah, but I recall many years back reading in a book that says that the word Gog comes from the word Gag. Gag in Hebrew means a rooftop. The highest place on a building in Hebrew it's called Gag. The highest place in your body it's called Gag. The brain it's called Gag. Where do we learn such a hidush? From the Perashah that says, Ve'asita ma'ake legagecha. You have to build a fence around your rooftop. Meaning to say, you have a balcony, you must put railings, right? You have a swimming pool, you must put a fence. What's the purpose of putting a fence in a balcony or a swimming pool? Protection. So the pasuk says, "Ve'asita ma'akele gagecha." Create a protection to your brain. Make sure that your brain does not get clogged with stupidity and ashkafot which are not in accordance to the Torah. And actually, the Gemara clearly brings different sources of the Pesukim, why the Seudot of Shabbat connect to these three miracles. Let's do one more, and it says, Amar Rabbi Yochanan mishum Rabbi Yossi, kol ha'me'aneg et Shabbat, a person that enjoys the Shabbat without limitations. Notnim lo nahala beli mesarim. Hashem will give you inheritance without restrictions, as the pasuk writes, "Bekarata la Shabbat oneg." You call the day of the Shabbat a day of enjoyment. Interesting enough, the word oneg means pleasure. If you take the same letters of the word oneg, gives you the word nega. Nega means an illness. So don't look at the Shabbat as a negative day, as a day of restriction. But many people, unfortunately, who don't understand about the greatness and the beauty of the Shabbat, they look at the Shabbat, oh, in Shabbat everything is forbidden. No, not everything is forbidden. Certain things are not allowed, certain things are allowed, certain things are needed. So the Gemara explains that the beracha of Abraham, Ishak, and Yaakov come to the person in the merit of honoring the Shabbat. Let's clarify. Honoring the Shabbat is not only, oh, I made a mahshi for Shabbat dinner and yebra for Shabbat lunch, or cholen for lunch and gefilte fish for dinner. That's nothing to do with the food. Of course, let's be honest here. There is a concept of honoring Shabbat with the food. That's why you make a dish, you make a douche, you make the hamosi, you have a nicer meal than usual. But also, on honoring the Shabbat has to do how the person dresses in honor of Shabbat. You can't dress on Shabbat like you dress during the weekday. The day of Shabbat requires a special dress code. Goes further. Not only that, then you have what do you do on Shabbat and the limitations of Shabbat. That also determines what's going to be with a person. Continues the Gemara and it says, Rabbi Nachman bar Yitzhak Amar, a person that celebrates and honors the Shabbat properly will be protected from being prosecuted by the government in Galut. What does it mean, prosecuted by the government in Galut? So one of the differences that will be between Mashiach's arrival before and after is that a Yehudi will have freedom to observe Torah without any fear, any limitations. Somebody who may be listening or watching the class live told me a story about his son, that he lives in America, in Idaho, and he put a mezuzah in his condominium. And the building sent him a letter that he must remove the mezuzah, and they put him a fine, and I believe it may be even heading to eviction, Haz v'shalom. So we're trying to see what can be done. I believe that there are some attorneys involved, but this is a reminder that we are in Galut. So you may say, but Rabbi, who told him to go to Idaho? Come to Aventura. Okay, I understand that, but you don't know where Hashem's plans takes you.
How about the
Do you know? Of course, that is the last halachic resource. But the idea is not to find a way how to circumvent the mitzvah. The idea is just to serve us as a reminder that we are in exile. How comfortable this exile is, and I said this on Shabbat, we understand that we are visitors. This is not our final destination. Our final destination, Be'ezat Hashem, is Eretz Israel with Mashiach's arrival. And according to the Gemara that we learned today, is something fascinating. That you can have, you can sit down at home and have a Shabbat meal with your family and friends, etc. And guess what? You're buying protection plan for yourself and you're expediting Mashiach's arrival. Because at the end of the day, what is the difference between pre-Mashiach's arrival and post-Mashiach's arrival? Pre-Mashiach's arrival, we know all the headaches, all the challenges, all the problems, all the financial difficulties, all the medical difficulties, whatever negative you go through your life, God forbid, all this is pre-Mashiach's arrival. But what's going to happen after Mashiach comes? So first of all, we need to dissipate a question or a doubt. The Rambam, Maimonides, that we spoke about him the other day, writes, Olam keminhago holech. It says, in the early stages of Mashiach's arrival, the world continues as it is. Meaning to say, you do what you need to do as a human being. And gradually, things will change. No more illness, no more wars, no more fears, no more tears, no more COVID, obviously. Obviously, that's part of the package. Okay, that's part of the package. Gradually, the world will change. Not only the Jewish people. Understand this. Mashiach's arrival is for mankind. Also goyim. They will continue doing the 7 Noahide laws. And they will be willing to help the Jewish people whatever they need. Because they will recognize the greatness of Am Yisrael, that despite persecution, anti-Semitism, Holocaust, Inquisition, pogroms, terrorism, and add whatever word you want to add into this equation, Am Yisrael was able to remain alive and well. Sometimes more, sometimes less, sometimes more observant, sometimes less observant, but somehow we kept some level of connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the Gemara discusses and it says that even though Galut is challenging, and no one can deny that Galut is not challenging. The sad part of it is that being in Israel today is also Galut. Galut is nothing to do only with the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash, but it has to do with the mindset of people as well. And in this topic, Israel is not exempt. Israel also has its own set of challenges, perhaps a bit different in certain areas, but everyone has challenges, and every city has challenges. Some cities have more challenges, some cities may have less, some cities have a challenge in one topic and not in the other topic, but the challenges at the end of the day is what gives the person the strength of survival. So guess what? According to today's Gemara, when we pause from the weekday activity and actions and we unplug from our technological connection, which is alive 6 days a week, we disconnect to connect with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That is exactly what the Shabbat does. And that's why on the day of Shabbat, we try to maximize what we do in honor of Shabbat. Besides praying and sleeping, we also learn a bit more on Shabbat. Why? Because the learning of Shabbat, it's equal 1,000 times stronger than the learning of the weekday. Because at this moment, we are learning, Baruch Hashem, and it's beautiful. But in a few moments, in a few seconds, I'm going to close the book, I'm going to say goodbye to everybody, and everybody goes back to the world.
Where are you going?
No, I'm going nowhere. I gotta take care of my appointments and my meetings that I have lined up. No, I'm not going anywhere, relax. At least, not to my knowledge. God may have different plans for me, I can't control that. But I'll be Teva, my day is gone already. With meetings, classes, appointments, etc. But Baruch Hashem, not complaining. But, guess what? During Shabbat, we have nowhere to go. Home, synagogue, synagogue, home, friends, home, synagogue. That's the triangle that we do on the Shabbat. And not only that, we have a good partner called the cell phone. That during the weekday, he bothers us. Let's be honest here. Thank God now the cell phone, I put it in do not disturb, and therefore he knows that I'm not available, right? But the minute I shut down the recording and I release the do not disturb on the timer, you'll see the phone calls and the messages, etc. But imagine your day, yourself on Shabbat, that you have no cell phone, no text message, no vibrate, nowhere to go. The Menachem says this, that the learning of Torah in Shabbat Kodesh, it's equal 1,000 times more than the learning of the weekday. And that's why learning on Shabbat, the Gemara writes, and we finish with this, לא ניתנו שבתות בימים טובים לישראל, אלא כדי שיעסקו בתורה. One of the main reasons why we have Shabbat weekly and the holidays sporadically spread out throughout the year is for Am Israel to be able to learn Torah in a real manner and not diluted. For example, shredded cheese. You have cheese on the table today?
Yes.
Beautiful. You have slice, right? Let's say that instead of sliced cheese, you have shredded cheese. If you take one tiny piece of shredded cheese, you will not be able to feel the flavor. But if you take a nice slice, you feel the flavor. Hamabdil ben Kodesh lehol. When a person learns Torah during the weekday, the learning becomes shredded cheese. You interrupt, you get up, you come in, you answer a text, you answer a message, you talk about business, you sit down, you go back. So the learning becomes shredded. But on Shabbat, you have none of the above to disturb you. So therefore, the learning becomes whole, the learning becomes complete. My dear friends, Tizkela Mitzvot, to all the generous sponsors of today's breakfast and class, may the Neshamot have an aliyah in Gan Eden. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen. Rabbi Hananiah ben Akashia Omer. רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל לפיך.